What's up, guys? It's your boy MMA Striker here with a new video today. Now today I'm going to be predicting UFC 252 Miocic Cormier 3, the most important fight in heavyweight history and the biggest fight in UFC heavyweight history. And the card itself is pretty good. There's a lot of great matchups on this card. And before we get into the actual predictions, I want to talk about the narrative for the main event, which is that the winner of this fight will be the greatest heavyweight of all time. And I disagree. Even if DC wins, I don't think he's the greatest heavyweight of all time, just by the competition and the title defenses. And I kind of want to dive into that a little bit. So I'm going to pretty much break down each guy's competition at heavyweight. And we're going to start with Stipe. So Stipe is beating DC in the rematch. He's beating Ngannou, JDS, Overeem, Verdum, Mark Hunt, Orlovsky, and Roy Nelson. Now, the DC2 win was a great win. The Ngannou win was a great win. JDS was past his prime, but he got his revenge from the first fight and knocked him out in the first round, so still a good win. Alistair Overeem, great win. That was a prime Overeem in my opinion, the best version of Overeem on a 5-fight win streak and finishing everyone. And he knocked him out in the first round. Knocked out a prime Verdum in the first round. In Brazil, going backwards while Verdum was rushing him, counted him, boom, knocked him out. He knocked out Andrei Arlovsky in the first round, and people forget that Arlovsky was on a 4-fight win streak when they fought and was ranked number 3. He dominated Mark Hunt, and he beat Roy Nelson. Now let's compare that to Daniel Cormier's heavyweight resume. DC beat Stipe in the first fight, which is a great win. Derek Lewis, that's a good win. Josh Barnett's a good win. Frank Mir is a decent win. Frank Mir was past his prime, and Bigfoot Silva was a decent win. I mean, so if you compare the two resumes, Stipe has a better resume, and Stipe has more title defenses. Stipe has 3, which is tied for the most with Fedor, compared to Daniel Cormier's 1 title defense. And the people that are saying that DC would be the heavyweight GOAT if he wins, the only reason they're saying that is because that he would have beaten Stipe twice, which beating someone twice doesn't really guarantee you as the GOAT of a division. Max Holloway beat Aldo twice. He's not the greatest featherweight of all time. Rose Namajunas beat Joanna twice. She's not the greatest strawweight of all time. Weidman beat Silva twice. He's not the greatest 185er of all time. So that doesn't really mean you're the greatest of a division. But let's not get too off topic here. Let's predict these fights. And we're going to start with the main event, DC Stipe 3, which on paper is a very even fight. And looking at the first 2 fights, DC was pretty much beating Stipe on both fights up to the finish, but that doesn't really hold much weight because each fight is different. And the one thing to note though is that the fight is in the Apex, which is a smaller cage, and that's going to benefit Daniel Cormier much more because of the wrestling. And it's going to help him close the distance much easier to get the double legs and the single legs. But Stipe's takedown defense, in my opinion, is underrated. He has a 74% takedown defense, and DC has a 71. But Stipe can wrestle. He can defend takedowns. He took DC down in the rematch. So Stipe's defense, wrestling-wise, is very good, and his offensive wrestling is very good. So, and if DC can't get the takedowns, he's struggling to get Stipe down, it can drain his cardio, and like it did in the first fight. So that's one thing to watch out for. Another thing to watch out for is the eye pokes. Now, Stipe did say he was going to talk to the referee about it, which he should, because he got poked twice in both fights. Well, not twice. He got poked once in each fight. And after the second fight, he had to get surgery because of the eye poke. So, in my opinion, if DC pokes him again in this fight, there should be an automatic point deduction. I think that's the fair thing to do. But overall striking wise, Stipe has the advantage, but DC can strike with him. When DC has his hands out, like he fight taller fighters, when he fight guys like Stipe and Jones, he keeps his hands out, but he has to watch over the eye post. But when he keeps his hands out, he can land 1-2s like he did on Stipe in the first fight. Land the 1-2, land the overhand, and in the clinch, how he knocked out Stipe in the first fight. Get in the clinch, dirty box, uppercuts, overhands, potentially knees. Make it an ugly fight. Make Stipe have to work. And another thing that's going to work in DC favor is leg kicks. DC in the first fight do a lot of leg kicks which set up his combinations. Stipe doesn't really check leg kicks that much, so if DC can throw leg kicks, they can set up a lot of his combinations boxing wise. And But also another thing is the body shots from Stipe. Now DC did say on Ariel's show that they have been working on the body shots, about keeping the elbow tucked in. But the thing about that is, if he's so concerned about the body shots, it's gonna leave him open to the head sometimes. Stipe can go to the head with, I don't know, uppercuts, straights, left hooks. That right hand, Stipe's best strike is his right hand. That's what knocked out a lot of people. That's what knocked out JDS. That's what knocked out Arlovsky. That's what knocked out Verdun. Stipe's right hand is one of the best right hands in the game. So, and it can leave him open to knees. Stipe might not throw a body punch. He could throw a knee to the body in the clinch. And if DC's gonna keep his elbow tucked in, that's gonna restrict him from trying to wrestle. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out. So my prediction for the fight is a very tough one, but I'm gonna go with Stipe Miocic by round 5 TKO. I think he's gonna TKO him late in the fight, around 5th round. But the fight can go either way. But I got Stipe winning. Now on to the co-main event: Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Chito Vera. Now this is a very good fight. This is going to be Sean O'Malley's toughest fight to date on paper, and it's going to be very interesting because they're two different styles. Chito has very good elbows, very good knees in the clinch. Chito's very good in the clinch, and he's gonna need the pressure on O'Malley. He's gonna have to pressure O'Malley, get in the clinch with O'Malley, land those elbows, land those knees, and O'Malley's gonna try to keep this fight at range, at distance, counter Chito. And the one thing that Chito does wrong sometimes, he gets very defensive at times. He did that in the Song Yadong fight, which could have led him to losing that fight, even though I think he won that fight. But the judges could have looked at that and gave Song Yadong the win. Chito gets defensive at times, and you do not want to get defensive against Sean O'Malley because Sean O'Malley will start picking you apart. Chito can't get defensive. He has to get inside, make O'Malley work, get in the clinch, use his elbows, his knees. And people are saying on the ground Chito might have an advantage, but I'm not so sure about that because Sean O'Malley has good jiu-jitsu. He just hasn't shown it yet. Will we see it in this fight? I don't really know. We're going to have to wait to find out. But the main downfall I see in this fight is Chito being too defensive, and I think Sean O'Malley is going to capitalize on that and pretty much pick him apart. Not pick him apart, but pretty much land a lot of strikes and significant strikes on him, a lot of leg kicks. And my prediction for the fight, I'm going to go with Sean O'Malley by decision. I don't think he's going to finish Chito. I don't see him knocking out Chito or starting him in the first round like he did Eddie Wineland. But I think he'll win on 29-28, maybe 30-27. But yeah, I got Sean O'Malley by decision. Now moving on to the next fight, we have Junior Dos Santos versus Jarzinio Rosenstruck. Now this is a very underrated fight on the card in my opinion. Nobody's really talking about this fight, which is understandable because we have the biggest trilogy at the main event. You have Sean O'Malley as the co-main event, but this fight is very interesting. You have the style of JDS, who is a pretty much boxer. He uses long range strikes, great boxing, has the reach, versus Jarzinio Rosenstruck, who is a kickboxer and has a lot of power in his hands. Now, the one thing to take note and the one factor in this fight is JDS has taken a lot of damage in his career. He's been knocked out by Stipe in the rematch. He's been TKO'd and finished by Cain Velasquez. Took a lot of damage in both of those fights. Been knocked out by Alistair Overeem. Knocked out by Francis Ngannou. TKO'd by Curtis Blades. So he's been in a war with Stipe in the first fight. So he's taken a lot of damage in his career. And to be honest, I don't really see him eating that many clean shots from Jarzinio, because Jarzinio only needs 1 or 2 shots to put anybody's lights out. But same with JDS. JDS could put anybody's lights out too. And I don't know how Jarzinio is going to recover from that devastating knockout to Francis Ngannou. So it's a very interesting fight. All it could take is one punch for both guys. But this is the type of fight that JDS can win. This favors JDS. He can stay at range, use his boxing, use his reach, use his jab. But I see the first round being competitive. I can see JDS winning the first round, but I think in the second round, Jarzinio is going to catch him and put him out. So my prediction for the fight, I'm going to go with Jarzinio Rosenstruck by round 2 KO. And that's going to do it for this prediction video, guys. Make sure to comment down below your predictions and make sure to like the video and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video.